Hi, this is Dan Harris, and welcome to another episode of the Ironbird Podcast, your go-to source for everything private aviation. Josh, do you want to let us know how you went from, or how you transitioned from chartering airplanes, managing airplanes, to selling like an insurance-like service?
Not insurance support, but we've been in the space for almost 20 years now, operator, broker. Have always dealt on both sides of that. So I understand the broker side, I understand the operator side. And there was always that nagging issue of AOGs. So we were out there looking for a solution. Couldn't find a solution. And we decided to start it ourselves.
That's like I think for like on the back end of the business, probably the most like nerve-wracking thing is just watching an airplane, waiting for it to take off. What's wrong with it? What's going on with it? And I think a great thing about charter flight support is it almost, not completely, but almost alleviates that anxiety of, all right, I got an airplane. Yeah, something may happen, but knowing that I have this service on the back end, like my anxiety levels like almost completely drop, because I know, hey, I've got a team that's going to back me up, and financially I'm not going to be put in a bad spot.
Yep.
What was it like to build that company? Like, what did it take?
You know, I was in your spot too, and we would have AOGs, and I always thought every trip was going to go wrong. Mm-hmm. Slept with my phone underneath my pillow. No vacation.
Yep.
You had vacations, you just had the stress still there. We still do the same thing that you do. We monitor flights, and we always think something's going wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, you guys know that you change your schedule a little bit sometimes and don't tell us, and we are like, oh crap, that's broke.
Yeah.
Or the tell switches, and we didn't get that update. So our team's trying to do a better job of being that backstop of flight following, another avenue for you guys, so that you can rest assured that our team's watching over it. But yeah, it was crazy. Like, there was a lot of times where we had an AOG, and it's, your small independent broker, and it's your client. So you have the choice when that AOG happens. Do you take that loss and carry on and not tell the customer, or do you tell the customer, hey, it's going to be $20,000, and he's gone?
Yeah.
So when it was, yourself, you can kind of monitor that a little bit better. But then as you start to scale up a brokerage or an operator, and you have new sales teams come in, and you don't know that customer like you do. So it's up to your salesperson. So we try to take that away where, everything's just fixed. So they treat it just like it would be, every trip is the same exact way.
Can you explain how, like, what's the process of it? How does it work?
Yeah. So pick and choose. You flop a support fee on each trip that you want.
And what's the fees range from?
2.5% to 4.5%.
Based on the
light
aircraft
jet,
size.
Yeah, we go by type. So light jets, super light, mid, super mids, and heavies, and ultra long range. And then we'll also do some like airliners. Those we look at case by case.
Yeah.
Because they're not operated Part 135. It's the 121 stuff. So we'll take a look at those and see if we can handle the recoveries, because we don't want to sell something that we can't support.
Yeah.
So there's a few trips that we're quoting out right now, and it's 150 people.
Yeah.
And they're going all over the world.
Yeah.
Well, there's not enough airplanes to cover that.
Yeah.
So we try to explain to our customer what we can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm. So it's 2.5% to 4% based on the purchase price, and then what are they getting for that?
Get up to doubles. So if you buy let's just say a G5, you're going LA to New York for $40,000. You're getting support up to $80,000. Mm-hmm. So we'll double that support.
And what I tell clients a lot of the time, because I know that some operators and brokers won't show the client that they'll purchase it on their own. What we always do is we offer it to clients and then explain to them what they're getting with it. And not only are you getting that financial support, but I think what they're getting a lot is that speed of recovery. So when there's a mechanical, and I usually try and run through this with clients, when there's a mechanical and you're on a Challenger 300, there might be an airplane that it'll take 6 hours to recover, but it'll be at close to the same cost. or there's one that takes 1 hour to cover and it's 10 grand more.
Yep.
And if you paid your 3.5% on your $40,000 flight, that recovery, you'll just say, yeah, take the $10,000 one and recover me faster than waiting the 6 hours for another airplane at the same cost.
Yeah, we're ultimately trying to make it better for the end user. We're a B2B product, so we're only selling to B2B. But ultimately, we want that end user to have a better experience.
Yeah.
So it helps the industry, reputation of the industry, all those fun things. So, our support is up. If you have a 2-hour delay, it's anything outside 2 hours.
Yep.
We have a lot of our AOGs that are the day before that happen. Plane comes back on a trip, it's tech. So then we have an early morning departure or a late afternoon. We're at like 98, 99% on-time recoveries on those. So, that normally you would have done what you said. You would have kind of looked at it for your pocketbook as opposed to your clients. Yeah. And you might have not told them about that option that was available because you didn't want the customer to either know about it or you were going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, other than peak days, there's always an airplane available. It's just a matter of cost.
Well, I would love to dig into some data if you've got it. I know we kind of talked about a lot of the different stuff, but I think what people would be interested in is, what are some of the more, they probably only care about the unreliable airplanes. So from your data, what are you seeing as some of the more least reliable airplanes, let's say over the last, quarter or beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think this is unfair to the manufacturer when I say these, because it's not, to me, the manufacturer, it's how they are operated. So like a CJ3 is a very high AOG aircraft.
Interesting.
But we know the CJ3 is a very strong airplane.
Yeah.
But it's the way that some operate those airplanes. So not all operators are created equal in how they utilize them. So, we don't have any facts specific to a type.
Yeah.
But we can say pretty strongly which ones are going to have a higher AOG percentage.
And why do you think that is? Like, what are operators doing that affect their reliability percentages?
Yeah, I honestly don't know, but I mean, my hypothesis would be culture. They build a culture of pilots might be a little worn down, upset. They're ready to write things up a little bit quicker. They might not have the support staff to, fix those AOGs quicker. They got back-to-back trips. So they're probably limping some along, trying to get it back to that home base or the scheduled inspection. But they just can't get there because it's a nagging issue that ends up grounding the airplane. So I don't know what specifically it is, but, Challenger 300s, we see 300s AOG all the time.
Is that just because where you see more 300 flights than you do?
Yeah, we take it and we look at it on a data set that's like, it's not fair to say, okay, you did 10 flights and this one, 2 planes went AOG, so it's 20%. That's not the way we look at it. We look at it over thousands of flights to see what the real ratio is. And there are more Challenger 300 flights, but as a percentage basis, we see a little bit more than what a Challenger 605 or something like that.
Is there any correlation between fleet size, an operator with 4 airplanes versus an operator with 25?
Yeah, I think, if that operator's, got 4 of the same type, I'll give a shout out to Prestige. Like Prestige operates Premiers. Yeah. We own a Premier. I know that airplane's hard to keep in the air and airworthy. Yeah. But they know that airframe really well. And so they're very good at keeping it going. Yeah. If you might have another 4 aircraft operator that has 1 aircraft type or 4 different types. Yeah. And they're
Citation and a Hawker and a Gulfstream and a Falcon. Yeah.
A little harder to keep all those going because they're so different. So, then you got the big fleet operators. I mean, they know those aircraft in and out, but they fly them a lot. Yeah. So they have higher mechanicals.
Is there, I guess, aircraft hours? Is there certain hours? I mean, you probably aren't tracking like airframe hours, but are you tracking the amount of hours these airplanes are doing within a certain time period where you see, all right, once you get to 60 hours a month, now we're starting to see a much higher correlation of issues than the company that's flying 30 hours a month?
Yeah, I mean, we don't track hours on the type or the aircraft specific that went AOG. We just have no data set that can figure that out. But we also know who those operators are and how they utilize them.
Yeah.
So we do know that they fly them a lot. And yes, we do check things when AOGs happen, like has the plane flown?
Mm-hmm.
When was the plane last flown? Was it flown before or after they put the support on our fleet or on with us to make sure it's not a frivolous deal. So I mean we don't track specific aircraft data in terms of how many hours they fly, but there is a correlation to flying a ton of hours compared to flying in that threshold of like 300 to 600 hours.
Yeah. Do you think you'll be able to get the data to a point where you're going to be able to predictively tell you've got a higher percentage of a mechanical on this airplane?
And I wish that would be something we could really make some money on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that can ever happen. I mean, there's some things that we know that there's going to be higher risk. Mm-hmm. Something that comes out of a scheduled maintenance event, like a big phase inspection.
Yeah.
It hasn't flown in a while. It's been down for 2.5 months. It comes out airworthy.
But it always has something.
But it has some gremlins.
That's a good tip for people.
Yeah, I'm trying to tip the cap to screw us. But those are things that are telltales. Another real good telltale is one that hasn't had a mechanical in a while. Yeah. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like there's no airplane goes throughout the year without a mechanical.
Yeah.
So if it hasn't had one, or brokers might not get this read, but operators would get their read if there's nagging issues again, and they fix it. 5 flights later, it's the same other issue. It's the same issue, and they try to throw another part at it.
Kind of that little gremlin in there that they just can't seem to figure out.
Yeah. So operators kind of have a better read on that than what a broker would, and we do represent both brokers and operators. But yeah, there's not some AI or any science that we can put behind exactly when it's going to happen.
That's like, hey, where this airplane's due, outside of like seeing a tail and knowing like, oh, this airplane hasn't had a mechanical in 6 months.
We another shout out. We use Stack. They're awesome. So our reporting tools are very, very good. Mm-hmm. So we can go back and track historical numbers on specific tells.
Yep.
Operator, all those things, and types and currently when you throw a support on an airplane, like we don't go and look and see like this thing's got 60% mechanical ratio. Yeah. Like that's not something we do unless you ask.
Yeah. Is there any specific airplane types that you see have reoccurring issues over and over and over again?
Like the same maintenance items?
Mm-hmm. Citation 10s have these issues all the time. G4s have these issues all the time.
Yeah, we track that. There are some that do, some that don't. And we're so wide scale with the fleets that we have.
Yeah.
And it's different AOGs and different platforms every day. We don't necessarily track each item that is happening and document that. We just document the stats of that specific airplane, operator, and type.
Okay. How many of these issues that you see that come to you end up getting fixed?
Oh man, like we get a lot. I mean, every day there's a
we made
fire.
This issue and
like O2 tanks are low, something like
can we get this battery charged or
there's plane just taxied out, it's taxiing back in, all those things that you get to deal with day in and day out. We see those. And then, we activate our support immediately. Like, so a plane taxis out to the runway, turns around, comes back, the broker or us, by watching and tracking the airplane, we see that. So we activate the support. Our team goes out and starts sourcing immediately. And then, operator might say, give me an hour to fix this before we go hard AOG.
Yep.
And we all want it to get fixed, including you, including passenger, because there's nothing going to be quicker than getting that plane turned back on.
Where'd the term AOG come from?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do you know that?
No.
I mean, I've said AOG for my entire career.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm assuming it's a commercial aircraft term, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
And for people that don't know, it's aircraft on the ground,
Yeah,
right?
stupid term.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Which basically means you're broken. The aircraft's
yeah,
not flying. If it's on the ground, it's broken.
yep, yep. I mean, layman's terms, charter brokers say maintenance or
Yeah, mechanical issue. Yeah,
Yeah, but our word is AOG, but that's just because
that's the just like FBO.
stupid.
FBO is kind of
Terminal.
ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. Most people don't think about the mechanical service replace. What's the correct term of the service?
It's mechanical support.
Mechanical support until they need it. What do you tend to tell people, like maybe new customers that ask about the service? Like what are the most important thing to think about when you're offering it to someone or trying to explain it to a customer?
Good question. So when we first built this, I had a laser focus of who I thought our core customer was going to be.
Yep.
Mom and pop brokers. That's who I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
I've been on the operator side. I was not trying to get more cost involved for the operator. Been on the broker side, and I know that we don't always have the same amount of cost that an operator would have.
For sure.
So my vision was it was going to be a broker fee. And a broker would always put on their trips. It was going to be their expense. They were going to tell the customer, hey, you're covered. Just like NetJets, just like FlexJet.
Yeah.
You got a fixed rate here. And then 4 different pivots. Like not us, but the customer pivoting on how they were going to do it. Mm-hmm. So we have some huge brands. Like we have some of the biggest players in the space.
Solaris,
FX Air, great big brands that they put it on and they do it in a way that I never envisioned, which is actually smart. They give it to their customer and they say yes or no.
Yeah.
So the customer has that opportunity to buy it. If the customer selects no, the operator or broker can go back to that customer and say, hey, you didn't choose it.
Yeah.
And we're going to do everything we can to support you, but this fee is extra.
Yeah.
My vision is too that the client just doesn't realize the effect of mechanicals. Like they fly Delta, they fly American, they have all the issues, but they always get rebooked with no extra fee. Mm-hmm. With us being a non-hub and spoke system, they don't realize flying in a G4 from LA to Seattle just to get the reposition is going to be an extra 20 grand or 30 grand or whatever it might be. So the end user is not educated of the risk. And so when we put it out there for them to say yes or no, we get a very good uptick on that. Like most end users want a fixed price and to be done with it. If you're an end user that doesn't fly that often, they don't realize it could happen.
Yeah.
They've watched Entourage, they've watched all the shows that see how glorious it is. But if a guy that's flown a lot, he's encountering mechanical. So he will be one of the first guys to say yes. So we have those guys that put it in, that's opt in, opt out is what we call it. We have some brokers that put it in every one of their costs, or it's just
they just add it into their margin. That's
just baked.
Or they take it out of their margin.
They could say that they add margin or add a cost, or they just take it out of their margin and know that they're going to get paid. So that was the way I did it when I was testing on my brokerages. Instead of making 15 points, I would make 13 points or 12 points or whatever it might be, but I knew it was fixed. I knew I was going to make my commission, and I was still going to be able to provide a better service to my customer. Then we have some brokers, operators that it's called the opt-out model. So they have it in the price, but they require the customer to say, no, I don't want this.
Oh, interesting.
So they go naked. So, with every company you make pivots, right? And we thought we had a pretty good idea because of just doing it ourselves. But we've had some really cool brands go, we like this, but we're going to do it this way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you've now integrated in some parts of their technology, right? So it's like I've seen in the Tivoli checkout process now on some of those companies, it's integrated into their technology, into their checkout process. That must make that friction a little bit easier when
it does. It does. And this year we're working on some tech development that will make it all much better for everybody, including us. There's a lot of elements that you don't need a human for a quote. Our pricing's fixed, so it. So when we have a customer come to us and book support, it's like 95%
Yeah.
booking ratio.
Yeah.
Because they know the price. They're
Yeah.
just getting a second opinion to make sure their math was right.
I don't even look at it. I just assume you're sending me the correct price.
Yeah, it is the correct price,
Yeah.
or you can yell at
Yeah.
us at the end of the
Yeah.
month when it's billed incorrectly. But yeah, we're working on technology to make it easier. It's something that needs to be easier.
Would you ever change your pricing structure, you think?
Pricing structure, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But the way we work and the way that another reason we started this was transparency in the industry. We were not building this for any purpose other than make the industry better. Like, didn't even know if it was a business model when we started it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were trying to make a transparent product that would help operator and broker. Back in my early days, you were probably like this too. When I had a mechanical AOG or whatever, I always thought the operator was lying to me.
Sure.
So it created this
Like,
huge
they've got a
friction.
better flight, or they've got,
Yeah, for sure. So it created this friction, and I was yelling, they were yelling, and it just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And then you got to go back to the well in this industry, so you can't burn bridges on one trip. So we were trying to fix that piece where operators could be transparent and honest,
Yeah.
not say they had a mechanical and run,
Yeah.
but have a mechanical, show proof of a mechanical so that they can get the next trip.
Yeah.
Because what we do see now is like we don't get that friction.
Yeah.
You have a trip, operator goes tech, you're screwed up, your
Yeah.
day's screwed up, but that operator's day's even worse.
Yeah.
Like, they got to get parts. They lost all the revenue.
Yeah. And God forbid it was in the middle of a trip. Now it's like that airplane's stuck somewhere. They got to get it fixed in,
Yep.
Boise, Idaho. And then they got to maybe it might take 2 or 3 days. They got to move the pilots back. And then,
Yep.
that's a nightmare situation.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Nightmare. So, that was our thesis on trying to start it, was like, how can we know, I use a apple pie analogy a lot for our space. Like, operators, brokers, we all make apple pies. We use 90% of the same ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
There might be 10% that is somewhat unique that makes that apple pie different.
Yeah.
But 90% are dealing with AOGs.
Yeah.
90% are dealing with pilot issues. 90% are dealing with, TFRs, stuff that there's nothing that their brand can do that's going to be unique to get away from that.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to fix one of the ingredients.
When did you know that this was going to be the business to focus on versus your other charter business?
Oh, probably.
What happened?
Man, I started to really love it.
Yeah.
I had been competing with some of the operators and brokers all my life on trips, competing, but you still work together, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe had some disdain towards some of these brands that we work with today. And now it's fun. Like, we work with these guys, and
You get to work with people that you're like, oh, this guy's, undercutting me, and
yeah. And we're on the same team now. Like, we really feel like we're on the same team. So
Yeah.
when that client goes through a mechanical, we know how much they're going through. Like,
Yeah.
we know their clients on the other end screaming and shouting. If it's the same day AOG,
Yeah.
hopefully it's not a same day, and the client doesn't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
They just know it's fixed. But the same day AOGs, when a client is just not going to make the basketball game, or not going to make the concert or funeral, whatever it might be, we know that's a terrible situation that client or that
Yeah.
broker or operator is going through. So, understanding what they're going through makes it easier for us to handle it and say, listen, we'll take the back end of this
Yeah.
work. You got to take the call with your client because it's your client. But we're going to be updating you every second that we get an update
Yep.
on what's available.
What's been the worst recoveries that you've seen from a dollar standpoint?
We've had many six figures.
Really?
Yeah.
Like $200,000 flight, the replacement is 300 or 400?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a couple around the world tours,
Mm-hmm.
and those trips are in the $2-3 million ballparks.
Mm-hmm.
So one AOG, one small AOG in the grand scheme of things of the trip, really sucks.
Yeah.
But that's part of it.
What's been the longest recovery time you've seen?
longest recovery in terms of us finding an airplane to get the support.
Of them like plane breaks and then them getting back up in the air.
The actual plane coming RTS.
Yep. Or no, either that or the replacement airplane.
Yeah, we are never longer than the next day.
Okay.
Like that's
been the worst. Next day.
And we don't have many of those. Like the next days are terrible.
Yeah.
But we do have next days when it's like a late night departure and the client's just like, dude, I'm not.
Yeah.
Even if there is an airplane that can go at midnight tonight, I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
Or it's coming from Cabo and going to Fargo and customs closed.
Yeah.
So, those don't tend to happen often.
What are the worst times of the year for recovery?
Peak. I mean, this February President's Day, worst day we've had.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't know, but February in general, or this month was just obviously the shorter month, and we've had more AOGs than of any month to record.
Is it coming off the back of a busy holiday season? The airplanes have been flying a little bit more than normal.
Good question. I think that could be it. I think people forget the power of President's Day, including myself. I don't always think of President's Day as a peak day. Yeah. I will from this day forward. But most people don't think of it as like a big, big day. Mm-hmm. And we follow like FlexJet does a fantastic job on their peak days. Like they have 7 peak days in their fractional program. Wow. And
if it's one of those 7, it's
they
going to be.
Nail it. Like they are so good on that. So, and the charter folks, they might have 30, 40 peak days because they put it on the weeks, which isn't wrong. Yeah. But if you look at FlexJet numbers compared to our numbers on what peak days are compared to ours,
they're like dead on.
Pretty much.
Yeah. When people are having mechanical issues, is there certain times of day, certain days a week, that it's going to be worse or better?
Yeah, any late night departure is bad, right?
Yeah.
Like there's duty days you've run up against, all the things. Like those are the worst. Early morning are the best because you could be delayed, but at least you're getting out.
You're going to find another airplane with a crew with duty.
Yeah. So we bought a fractional share that helps us in those situations for early mornings. So those are helpful. But those are tough too for us on early morning with the late night notice. Yeah. So a plane comes back at 10 p.m. and it's got a 7 a.m. departure, comes back and it's broke. Yep. So our team gets on the horn, tries to find people to answer the phone calls.
That's the toughest part at first, right?
It is a tough part. We do have the benefit of doubt a lot with operators because early on, who's CFS, right? Yeah. Nobody knows. But they do know that we're shopping real trips. Yeah. So unlike nothing against brokers, they're our favorite. But when we shop, it's a real trip.
Yeah. The operator on the other hand knows that, hey, this is an actual trip that I could book versus getting a random request for a Vegas trip. They probably said this guy's a bozo. Yep. Is there any locations that are harder to recover? I was told Seattle was always a tough.
Still.
Yeah.
Still. It's not improving. Just bad market.
Yeah. There's just not as many airplanes and.
Yeah. So, now, if it's not a same day.
Yeah.
They're not going to be affected. Yeah. Because we can get an airplane.
Next day you move an airplane. Yeah.
Or Bay Area, whatever.
So from a strategy standpoint, if someone says, "Oh, I don't want to put CFS on every flight," even though they should, I definitely should on all my peak days, and anything that is, an evening or afternoon departure, you probably need a little extra help there, and then maybe certain locations like a Seattle where it's like, hey, that recovery is going to be really expensive or really hard if you don't have some kind of backup service. Anything else that just says like, hey, you really should consider doing it if you're in this type of situation?
Yeah, I mean,
international travel.
I know it's coming off as biased because I run the company. Yeah. But I wouldn't go without it because you cannot predict. We've had the broker go, okay, we got the G650 trip. We've got the Hawker 800 XP trip. I'm going to put on the 800 XP because it's older and has a higher likelihood of going tech. Yeah. G650 breaks. Yeah. So then they start cursing themselves because they put it on the wrong trip. So like in any game, I would weigh the odds of overall averages.
Yeah.
But if you are going to pick, I mean, you're not wrong that peak days are definitely a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We are looking at changing our pricing structure
Yeah.
because we get absolutely demolished on peak days.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of guys kind of like the 1 or 2 flyers a year that you deal with that come on out during Christmas, New Year's.
Yep.
We get those in the broker and operator community.
Yep.
So we're trying to put some boundaries like, okay, you got to have certain amount of averages for the year to be able to have the same rates for peak day.
Yep.
As of today, that's not there, but it's coming so
Yeah.
that we can like keep the prices down. Back to your original question. Our goal is to keep prices down, not go up.
Yeah.
And we use the collective averages of everyone. So it's not like we go to Dan and go, Dan's AOG rates are really bad.
Yeah.
We know it's not Dan that's, affecting it. He's buying it from an operator. He's not the one going tech.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't ever want to go to a single customer and say, hey, your rates are going to be higher.
Would you ever do it based on the aircraft or operator they're booking with?
Yes.
Yeah. When do you think that'll happen?
It's sort of already happened for a couple.
Yeah.
But,
That's a leading indicator for, it's like, oh, sorry, the rates are up a little bit for this airplane and operator. Probably client might want to think twice about utilizing an operator like that.
yeah, I mean, listen, the fleet operators are a great service to our business.
Yeah.
Like our industry.
And from a percentage standpoint, it's still a low percentage of AOGs, right?
It's the highest in AOG percentages.
Yeah.
Fleet
But like,
operators.
but in general, are they above 10%?
Above 10%.
Wow.
Across all fleet operators.
Wow.
There's not a fleet operator that we have that we work with that is under 10.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeesh. Will you,
But they are great. They have nice airplanes.
They're flying. They're almost like the backbone of the operator. I mean, of the industry, because they're flying more hours than anybody else.
Correct.
So they're flying more of our customers around than anyone. They're really needed in the industry.
100%. We need more fleet operators that are floating fleet operators.
Yeah.
Like I talk to brokers every day. They're like, man, we're running out of options here.
Yeah.
There's nobody that can do a floating trip. Like if we got a Omaha to Tulsa, like
Yeah.
we got to get round trip pricing. So we need all of them, and we know that there's struggles, and their struggles are a lot of, not to their fault. Like there's parts issues, there's supply chain issues everywhere you look, pilot issues. So it's not exactly their fault. They're just huge.
Yeah.
They fly a ton, and they got some things that are out of their controls.
Will you walk us through the process of what happens like internally behind the scenes when you get a phone call of, hey, say it's like the day before, hey, this airplane's broken. What happens then on your side?
Yeah, our team activates support in a way that you would if you get a call from a client needing a trip. Mm-hmm. So we go out and use all the same channels that you would, Avinode, FlyEasy, AirMail. The goal is to keep you engaged on new sales.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys could do it too, but at some level, is it worth your time?
We've already invested the time to book this trip, right?
Already booked the
we want
trip.
to double the amount of time invested, and that just lowers the time to margin ratio.
Yeah, we want you to go out and book more trips. So it takes a little trust at first. Every new client we get, every broker operator, they all come in and say, well, you guys aren't as good at sourcing as us. In a lot of ways, that is true. Mm-hmm. But you've already got the good price.
Yeah.
You got the good plane. Now our job is to get you the next plane that's equal or better.
Yeah.
So if that means it's 100% more, that is what it is. So we love working with our brokers and operators when they go out and help source as well. But that is not what's needed. So our team goes out and collects all the quotes, sends them back to them, just like they would be if it's a sourcing desk, internal sourcing desk for your team. And then it's a collaborative decision on what you're going to go with. It's not like we're holding a gun to your head and saying, you're going to go with this option.
Yeah.
And, it's equal or better. And then all planes are not created equal or better. Like you might find that a 2000, but it's been refurbed 3 years ago is better than the 2010.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot of decision that you guys continue to make. Mm-hmm. And, that was one thing that was scary about making this company, like because of the industry perspective that everybody was scumbags.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
How many people are scumbags, you think?
Less than 30%. I mean, that's a high number,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's better than 90%.
Yeah.
They're good guys. So
Yeah.
they all are trying to make money. They're trying to provide a service to their client, and they're not all trying to be shysters.
Yeah.
So, when we first started it, I was going with the fact that, 90% are scumbags.
Yeah.
And they're not. So it's been fun working with them, realizing, they protect us almost as much as we protect them.
Yeah.
There are plenty of times where we have a mechanical and the client could say, you know what, that doesn't qualify as equal or better.
Yeah.
But we've had so many times where the client comes back and goes, you know what, though?
I'll take it. Yeah.
We want to help. Like, we want to be a good partner.
Yeah. What for people that are maybe, flying on these airplanes and they want to ask some questions that might be able to like understand like, oh, this airplane has a higher chance that it might have a mechanical. What are some of the questions you would tell them to ask an operator or broker about an airplane?
If you're the end user, I would ask who's operating it. I think it's important to know in general who's operating it. I think you should get a pass report or some version of who's flying you.
Yep.
I think your company that you're using should call us to see what that type is how it's performing, and we're happy to answer those questions. Like, we're not.
Can you get specific to that specific tail number?
You could.
Yep.
You could. I mean, and again, back to the first question, that's not a telltale that's going to go mechanical because it might have had a great run.
Yeah.
But we really do want to elevate the good guys.
Yeah.
And a lot of ways some operators thought we were like hurting them. But we're not hurting them.
That you were trying to like police them or
maybe police them or, say that they're operating at a higher mechanical ratio or whatever the details, but it's the honest truth.
Yeah.
Like there was one operator that had a super high mechanical ratio and won't name names, but we went to that operator and go, hey, you guys are really good. You guys have great airplanes. Like the industry needs you.
Yeah.
Here's the maintenance percentages that you have, and they're out of bounds compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And instead of taking that and going, no, we're not. You guys are wrong.
Yeah.
They went and hired a new DOM. And I will tell you today, their maintenance percentage is way low.
Wow.
So it's not that we want to go that crazy, but if I'm the operator, I would like to know where I stand amongst everybody.
How many operators are coming to you and asking for that data?
Not many.
Interesting.
But happy to answer those questions.
Wow. Yeah, because they could benchmark not only fleet-wise, but specific type-wise, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we also, we just started a new newsletter that we try to put out like statistics that help brokers and operators. Mm-hmm. So when I was an operator, we would do 1,000 quotes a day, and then we'd call on 1,000 quotes a day, and then not upset why they didn't book.
Yeah.
But now we're saying, okay, here's the rates of what's being actually booked on a almost like a jet card pricing.
Yep.
Wholesale rates of CJ3. If you're in that range, you should call on those. If you're so far out of the range, quote them, but don't waste your time on calling on them.
Yeah.
And then broker, if you're always begging for a deal, understand this is the buyer.
Yeah.
Like this is what it's really going for.
Yeah.
And there are times where it's not going to get that price. There's times where it's going to be below that price. But but understand what the real cost is.
Yeah.
And let's not always go to the bottom. Like we have a tendency to, on brokers, try to, get operators to go to the bottom. And then they wonder why operators aren't around.
Yeah.
Like we have to work together where we can all make a little money. Not a lot of money because there's no huge amounts of money to be made. But like, a lot of operators, we're working with operators and brokers trying to get better at what makes a good operator, what makes a good broker. Booking percentages from operators' perspective is huge. So if you're an operator out there and you're calling on this particular operator for thousands of quotes and your booking ratio is sub 2%, and you wonder why they're not giving you good pricing or even answering your calls, you're wasting their time. Now, if you're at 10%, you're going to be king to them.
Yeah.
So which is hard. Like, there's trips you always have to shop. It's just gotta be
sometimes you want to make sure you get you cast the wide net, but if that's what you're doing for every trip and if you're getting 50 quotes and only booking one, you've got 49 other people that said, oh, this guy doesn't book. And if you do that over and over and over again.
Yeah. We've talked to some operators who do large amounts of money for particular brokers, but their booking ratios are in that sub 2%.
Yeah.
Where they are talking about cutting those guys off.
Wow.
And
just because of the time, it takes so much.
Time swamp.
Yeah.
And, they're big dollar amounts.
Yeah.
But there's other guys that can replace those dollar amounts if you factor in all those times. So, data that helps operator and broker, again, back to our why we started CFS, was transparency and helping the industry. So by no means are we sharing anything that's, you shouldn't share. It's just data.
If you were to give the 30-second elevator pitch on CFS, how would you do it?
I would say, the health of your business and the health of you physically are reasons why you should buy it. For me, physically, it was draining. Just always thinking something's going to go wrong, like you said earlier. So I would buy it for the health of my business, knowing that my balance sheet's protected, and a health of my family and myself personally, knowing that I'm not going to always be alone.
Yeah. And if someone were to say, all right, will you explain it to me what it is and what it does in 30 seconds, how would you do it?
It's a protection for the unforeseen AOG, and it gives you a fixed rate, just like FlexJet, NetJets, and all the great brands. A lot of people think our game is to hide for mechanicals. We actually want to show our benefit.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of marketing except for your stuff.
Appreciate that.
But we
proud sponsor of the Ironbird Podcast.
Correct. But yeah, our marketing is mostly spent in our AOG recoveries.
Yeah.
Like, if we can keep our costs down in marketing, there's no better marketing than doing an AOG.
Yeah.
Most of our clients have all been organic. Like, you say something to somebody else, then all of a sudden their business starts. Or we get a ton of guys that leave a customer and go to a new company, and they're like, you got to do this. We did it at the other place.
We also talked about, there's different groups where people say, oh, I'm recovering a mechanical on this, WhatsApp groups or things like that. Remember us talking about that being like an avenue for you guys to say, oh, well, should have had charter flights.
Yeah. We haven't done that. I don't want to be intrusive and like salesy. Like, I'm very like nonchalant with that. Like, I think naturally you come to us because you'll hear from other people's experiences. Yep. And, I'm sure there's somebody that's not had a good experience with us, but I would say 99% of the time it's been us. We do have some times where people have bad experiences with us, but if you get to the nuts of it, it's their provider.
Yeah.
We have a lot of guys that, get angry about a situation that happens, and, we hear it. Like, I'd be angry too. But it wasn't us that went tech.
Yeah.
And it wasn't us that was tech for 2 weeks when they booked the trip.
Yeah.
Those things happen. And, the more that we think that we can be a voice for everybody is the better. So, like, one specific trip that you have, and if you get really screwed and somebody's doing unethical things, not having an AOG, those happen. But if you're pulling a trip for another person's trip, stuff like that, you might see, back to our booking ratios, CFS might not have huge booking ratios because we have the customer book directly with the operator when they choose. But we represent over $2.5 billion of charter a year. Yeah. So we want the whole community to understand, like, this is what is happening.
Yeah. And you also have like the data. I remember we had a flight that was having an issue, and you knew that where that airplane was coming from, like 2 flights down the road, because that airplane had an issue a day earlier on another flight that you were covering too. So like the intelligence that you have is like so much longer. I see this airplane only in this little blip of time on between this time on this date, but you may have seen that airplane 3 or 4 days in a row.
Yeah, we don't want to get in the way of an operator and broker relationship.
Yeah.
Like, want that to be out there. But we do want you to know, like, you got a trip 2 days from now.
Yeah.
For protection for us.
Yeah.
And protection for you. The more notice we have, the better that we can have a lower loss.
Yeah.
Our biggest losses are same days.
Yeah.
So your customer don't want the notice 2 hours before departure when the plane was broke 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I also think
And that happens.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if you know that it's mechanical and you speak with the operator and the operator's like, it is mechanical. We have a part coming on Friday. Your flight's on Saturday.
Yeah.
Then that's up to you guys to figure out, do you continue on with?
Yeah.
And we're not ever going to get in the way of that.
Yeah.
But we think that's something you should be told.
Yeah. At least you can get the head start on it as well.
Yeah, you can at least have backup options and say, okay, if the part and the plane is not RTS by 5 o'clock on Friday, we've got to pull the trip.
Yeah.
And we have all the options ready for you so that 5 o'clock we can activate.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are important things. And we don't do the best job at that. We got to get better at that.
Yeah.
Our data intelligence so that you can be informed better. But again, we do not want to get in the way of an operator.
Yeah.
Like, it's up to the operator to tell you. But if we can help.
But if you see it, if you've seen, hey, we had a trip on this plane a day ago and it didn't go, you're going to say, well, we've got another trip the day after, with somebody else that we need to figure out.
It also comes back to ethics to us. So, like, you would be upset if you knew that I knew 2 days ago and I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
So when we know something, we do need to talk.
Yeah.
And I think you wanted to go through the rates.
Yeah.
We follow wholesale rates as if they were jet card rates. So,
Yep.
Doug Golan puts the jet card comparisons of rates for Magellan and Cinchant and all those guys. So we do that in the same way that what people buy on an occupied basis wholesale. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important telltale for both sides of the fence. What we have seen the start of 25 is the rates have increased.
Interesting.
I was at CJI London. It was a great deal where everybody thought we were going to see growth. It was kind of like static growth, so it's like 1%.
Yep.
Mainly North America, and
over 24.
Yep. Over 25.
Okay.
Yeah, 25 was going to have year-over-year growth, which was encouraging. At least it's not down. We're seeing some pretty nice jumps so far in 25 compared to 24. Mainly turboprops have jumped up 5.5%.
Wow.
You got very light jets up 7.5%. Light jets 1.2%. Super lights are static. The midsize 6.5%. Super mids 5.5%. Heavy jets 6.3%. The only one that's really shown decreased growth is ultra long range pricing. And that's been a trend. We've started to see the trend of ultra long range start to come down.
I'm also hearing from ultra long range operators that those trips are just not there.
Yeah.
That there are just not as many people traveling to Europe and Asia as there was before.
Yep. And you and I have been in the game long enough that those guys don't disappear. They just go down in cabin class.
Yeah.
So ultra long range guys are going to heavies.
Yeah.
Heavies are seeing a little increase.
Yeah. That's good news for people that want to purchase airplanes and put them in the charter market. As the airplane values are going down, the fact that rates are coming back up is good. Now, we don't know where cost could be. It's not in the data here, but that's good news that rates. I mean, good news for operators, maybe not the consumer, but good news for operators.
I think if you use some of this data, like, you can really intelligently buy an airplane if you're wanting to put on a certificate.
Yeah. Do you know any good airplanes for sale right now?
I think there's a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's
a
lot.
Is there a great Premier for sale?
Yes, you can have it. There's airplanes for sale. I think the sales cycle has been somewhat slow. I mean, that was a consensus in London too.
Yeah.
It's been pretty
Inventory is up almost to record levels.
Yeah. So I think people are just tired of the pain points of pilots, supply chain, back to all the things that we've talked about, the fleet operators having to deal with. Everybody's having to deal with that.
Yeah.
There is no cheaper way to fly. And so owning an airplane is not going to be your answer.
Yeah. But people are still flying. So
some of the data too that I find crazy, that G4 SPs in 24, end of the 24, they were down to like 10,500, somewhere low tens. And Phenom 300s were approaching 9.5.
Wow.
So like people are
How does that happen?
I think they like the modern cabin,
Yeah.
and it's a wild stat. Like,
Yeah.
because
But the Phenoms, they're doing the 1 to 2 hour flights, and the Gulfstreams are doing the 5 hour flights. So I don't know if there's some efficiencies there.
sometimes, but we take it as a data set of all trips. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of short leg trips that are in these numbers too.
Yeah.
There's also ultra. There's
Can you
longer.
break it down by trip length?
We can. I don't have it right here, but we could.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see what the rates are when you go from 1 hour to 2 hours to 3 to 4 to 5.
Yep.
How that changes your rates. And I guess that's the advantage of when you're looking at, jet card and fraction versus charter. It's like jet card and fraction's that straight line. I'm paying 10 grand an hour no matter how many hours I fly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been no secret around my peeps, but I've been
Yeah.
anti-fractionals my entire life, and the first time in my history I've been celebrating fractionals.
Yeah.
Like I think NetJets and FlexJet are incredible. So I'm big fans. I also think they're really expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like
And it's a big upfront capital investment.
and long-term commitment.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's not like you're going to just taste it.
Yeah.
You better get married to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can pull up some other stats.
While you're doing that, will you talk to us about the newsletter?
Yeah, so we started this newsletter late last year. Again, just industry data points of types of aircraft, what their rates are. We go by the top 5 models that are actively flying in that given period. So this month was the Citation XL 10, their 60s, G4SPs, and Challenger 604s. Then we also break down an average price on a category type, so turboprops all the way to ultra long range. And then we show the trends. So we show the trends compared to 24. And so it's year-to-date trends, year over year. Obviously, that's not a huge data set because we're in February, but it does help show trends.
But the year over year at least gives you a good idea
Yeah.
of how you're trending up or down.
And we mark it with green and red for us not so educated people can understand which way it's going.
Great. Good for me. Yeah. So what's it trending right now? Of the rates are up and
It's trending up. And
Yeah.
people have talked about the market slowing down. I don't I don't see it. I see our partners flying more.
yeah,
We've probably lost some of the COVID flyers, thank God.
yeah.
But we have gotten the stable guys that are still flying. They're still there.
The guys that could always afford to fly privately but never did because they just couldn't swallow that price tag over commercial.
Yep.
Now that they've gotten over that hump, they're never going back.
Yeah, I mean, I think some are.
Yeah.
But like
But it's added
big guys.
it's added a big chunk
For sure.
to the market.
for sure. Yeah, it's been great. Let me go through.
While you're doing that, I'm going to try and do the 30-second pitch for you because I felt yours was terrible. So
It's better when you tell it.
Charter Flight Support is a service for anyone that operates airplanes, flies airplanes under 135. It provides a backup service at a fixed rate. So if you were to purchase an airplane at a $50,000 flight, depending on the airplane size, the service itself would range from 2.5% to 4.5% based on airplane size. And it would cover, if there were a mechanical issue, up to 100% of that cost. So if you're on a $50,000 flight, the airplane breaks, a replacement airplane is going to cost $80,000. It'll cover up to $100,000 of that cost, all for your small single-digit percentage.
Good job, Dan.
There we go. Should hire me as a sales guy.
Yeah, hired. I can talk specific aircraft types if you want to know rates.
Yeah, let's run through the aircraft types. And what's the data set? How big?
It's as big as you want. So you can throw out
Whatever you got
aircraft
right
type.
now is the last quarter from the beginning of the year.
This is year to date.
Year to
and it's
date, great.
actual type of aircraft,
Great.
not
Yeah.
category.
Yeah, that's great. Let's run through the worst airplanes to fly. The most unluckiest people to fly on so far in 2025 have been what airplanes?
Unluckiest. That would be Citation. I mean, that would be back to CJ3s
CJ3s. Wow.
for us and our data sample.
And it kind of correlates to certain operators though too.
It does and it doesn't. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not just housed with a couple of operators.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people operating CJ3s.
Yeah.
Lots. And there's some
What's the percentage?
CJ3s are over 15% right now.
Wow.
And what I have pulled up is the data point for pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want,
Yeah. So what's CJ3's going for? When they don't break?
they never break. They are going. You got it. You know what? I want the wrong card. That's charter hours. It's going to be a second. Has anybody else came on here and just gave data before? It's kind of hard.
No, but we had Eric with Video Valet with his iPad right here.
I was showing it.
The thing's awesome.
You're a big. I haven't seen it besides your deal.
It's great. It's more for heavy jet owners. The cost is, but they sold their first deal in Nigeria for someone that watched the Ironbird podcast and said, "Hey, for Ironbird podcast listeners, you get one free iPad when you sign up with Video Valet." And they're like, "We want that free iPad. Sign us up." And he shipped a couple. They paid him, so it was real. They weren't fake. They operate like a Hawker 800 out of like Nigeria. He shipped them the iPads and then went through like a video instruction, and now like just updates like all U.S. movies, and some Nigerian movies. And they've got like 2 or 3 iPads on their Hawker 800 in Nigeria now.
Love that.
Yeah. The reach of the Ironbird podcast.
It goes global.
It is global.
All right, I got it now. All right, so CJ3 rates, we're looking at 66, 64 an hour.
That's pretty good. Now, some people may be like, "Oh, that's crazy. It doesn't cost that to operate a CJ3," but that's you could be one way. That's round trip. That's pretty much like a blended rate.
Overnights.
And overnights.
Landings.
Yep.
So
FBO fees. That's basically like your all-in cost. And now, if you compare that, if you're looking at like a FlexJet Phenom 300, that's still that's below most jet card rates.
Yeah, that's before the markup.
Yeah.
This is just wholesale rates.
Yeah.
So there's going to be markup. There's also going to be taxes on that.
Yep.
FlexJet, NetJets don't. They're all in price, has taxes in it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you got Citation Excels in the $8,300 range.
Wow. That's still pretty good because the operating costs between the Excel and the CJ3 aren't $2,000 difference.
No. And then what's still crazy on the Phenom 300s? They're getting up. They're still at the 9,000 range.
Wow.
So now, if you compare that to FlexJet and other fractionals, you're going fractional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what other aircraft types would you like to see?
What's the most expensive?
Well, that would be the ultra long range.
Yeah. I mean, this is data people that are trying to buy airplanes for profit should be using.
Yeah, I mean, G550s, 16,000-ish, give or take.
Wow.
You got...
That's an airplane, if I think they get down low enough in the used market, that's going to be a great buy.
Yeah, I mean, the 550s are at 16. You got the 5s around 13, too.
Yeah.
So,
and the 550 and 5 operating costs are pretty similar, too.
Yep.
Those 5s are expensive. They're not super efficient.
Yeah, and then you got, what is another good one? Global Express is coming down. I mean, this is OG Global Express, so 13 or 11.5.
Yeah.
So cheaper than the 5s significantly.
Yeah.
605s are good.
What about super mids? Where are the Challenger 300s and Citation 10s? Because those, I think, are probably the more popular airplanes.
Yeah, you got the 300 right in that 11,000 range.
It's a good number. That's close to the global.
It is close to the global.
Wow.
It is close. Now, with that data set, globals are not doing near, like you mentioned earlier, globals aren't doing short legs.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get a global for that price going LA to Vegas, you can go ahead and forget about it.
Yeah. And then what's Citation 10 looking like?
Citation 10 is at 9,500.
That's still pretty good for a Citation 10.
What's interesting there is it's about the same amount of flying with the Sovereigns, and they're about the same price.
Really?
Yeah. And I think you would want
Sovereign's-
to do a Sovereign.
Sovereign's a little cheaper to operate.
And you would want to fly in a Sovereign.
Yeah.
Over 10.
Yeah. Well, what are percentage-wise, mechanical percentage-wise? You just have that in the same page?
Don't have it on the same page, but the 10 is now outpacing those.
Yeah. Yeah. The 10's a hard airplane.
I mean, the Sovereign does have high mechanical rates.
Yeah.
Like, extremely high.
That's awesome. That's great data. If people want to sign up for the newsletter, how do they do that?
Yeah, 2 ways. Now, we just started it on LinkedIn.
Yep.
New to me,
Yep.
but it's one that we've gotten a lot of subscribers, and
Yep.
it makes it easy. The other one is you can subscribe on our website, or you can go to our email and just charterflightsupport.com, and they will add you to the list.
If I'm an operator or a charter broker and I want to get charter flight support on my flights, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, it's best to talk to our biz dev guy, Rob Clipper, or myself, and we can set up a call because we really aren't cookie cutters. So we have to understand your business and how you're going to operate. And then so that first exploratory call is figuring that out. And then it just kind of goes from there. But we've had customers sign up day of. We've had customers that are longer approach, that 6-7 months. But it's super simple. The hardest part is how you integrate it within your system.
Yeah.
So if you want it digital and you want it into your Jet Insight or whatever that might be, that becomes a little bit more problematic, just working with Jet Insight and those guys.
And how do people get in touch with you or Rob?
You can go at info@Charter Flight Support, or you can reach out to Rob at Charter Flight Support, or I am happy to take it to Josh at Charter Flight Support.
Awesome. Josh, thanks, man. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
dude.
You got it.